The millionaire's wedding was about to begin when his 7-year-old daughter interrupted everything with a shout, "Daddy, call the police immediately." Everyone in the room is in shock as she points at the bride, accusing her of hiding a serious secret. She shows a video that caused the man to faint in front of everyone. If this story interested you, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The golden California sun painted the expansive gardens of the Richardson estate in warm hues as final preparations for the wedding were underway. Workers scurried about, placing the last of the white roses along the elaborate arch where Thomas Richardson, one of Silicon Valley's most successful tech entrepreneurs, would soon marry the captivating Victoria Laurent. Inside the mansion's master suite, 7-year-old Emma Richardson sat quietly in a plush velvet chair, watching as her future stepmother prepared for the ceremony. Victoria's elegant figure was wrapped in a designer wedding gown that seemed to catch every ray of light that filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her dark hair was styled in intricate waves, and her green eyes sparkled with what appeared to be joy, or perhaps something else entirely. "Emma, darling," Victoria called out, her voice honey-sweet as she adjusted her veil. "Would you like to help me with my necklace? It's the beautiful pearl one your father gave me for our engagement." Emma hesitated, her small fingers clutching her tablet computer closer to her chest. There was something about Victoria that had always made her uneasy, despite the woman's seemingly perfect exterior. Over the past year, as her father's whirlwind romance had blossomed, Emma had noticed things, small details that didn't quite fit, like pieces of a puzzle that had been forced into place. "I need to check something first," Emma replied, her eyes fixed on her tablet screen. She had been teaching herself to code, following in her father's footsteps, and had recently discovered something unusual in the mansion's security system, a pattern of late-night activities that made her young but brilliant mind suspicious. Victoria's reflection in the mirror tensed slightly, though her smile remained fixed. "The ceremony starts in 30 minutes, sweetie. We shouldn't keep everyone waiting." Outside, the sounds of arriving guests filtered through the windows. Emma could hear the string quartet beginning to tune their instruments, the soft murmur of conversations as Silicon Valley's elite gathered to witness what everyone called the wedding of the year. Her father had spared no expense. After all, this was supposed to be his fresh start, 5 years after Emma's mother had left them for a new life in Europe. Emma's fingers moved swiftly across her tablet screen, pulling up a video file she had discovered hidden deep within the mansion's security archives. She had found it purely by accident while testing a new app she'd created to organize her father's extensive digital library. The file was encrypted, but Emma, with her inherited technical prowess, had managed to crack it just hours before the wedding. "Victoria," Emma said suddenly, her voice steadier than any 7-year-old's should be, "who is Alexander Hayes?" The name hit Victoria like a physical blow. Her hand, reaching for a lipstick, froze mid-air. In the mirror's reflection, Emma watched as her future stepmother's face drained of color, the perfectly applied makeup unable to hide the sudden pallor of her skin. "Where did you hear that name?" Victoria whispered, turning slowly to face Emma. "I think you know exactly where," Emma replied, her small finger hovering over the play button on her tablet. "I also think you know what's going to happen if my dad sees this video." Victoria's composure cracked for just a moment, revealing a flash of something dark and desperate in her eyes. She took a step toward Emma, her wedding dress rustling against the marble floor. "Emma, sweetheart, there are things you don't understand. Adult things that are complicated and like why you meet with Mr. Hayes every Tuesday night when Dad is at his board meetings." Emma interrupted, her voice unwavering. "Or why you copied all of Dad's private company files last week." The air in the room grew thick with tension. Outside, the wedding march began to play, its joyful notes a stark contrast to the drama unfolding within the mansion's walls. Victoria stood frozen, caught between her carefully constructed facade and the reality that was threatening to shatter it all. Victoria's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she reached for Emma's tablet. "Give me that device, Emma. Now." Her voice had lost its usual sweetness, replaced by a sharp edge that confirmed Emma's suspicions. But Emma was already backing toward the door, her heart pounding but her mind clear. She had spent months watching Victoria, noting every inconsistency, every late-night phone call, every suspicious meeting. The pieces had finally come together when she discovered the hidden video files, and now she knew she had to act. "The EI ceremony is about to start," Emma said calmly, her hand on the doorknob. "We should go downstairs, everyone's waiting." Victoria's eyes darted between Emma and the tablet, calculating her options. The wedding march continued to play, its melody floating up from the garden, where 300 guests waited for the bride's appearance. Everything she had planned, every careful step toward her goal, was balanced on a knife's edge. "Emma, listen to me very carefully," Victoria said, her voice low and intense. "You're a clever girl, too clever for your own good. But you're still just a child. There are things happening here that you couldn't possibly understand. Give me the tablet and I promise we can work this out. We could be a real family." Emma's reply was cut short by a knock at the door. "Victoria? Honey, everyone's waiting. Is everything okay?" Thomas Richardson's voice carried through the heavy wood, filled with concern and love for his soon-to-be wife. In that moment, Emma made her decision. She pulled open the door, revealing her father in his tailored tuxedo, his kind face lighting up at the sight of his daughter. But before he could speak, Emma held up her tablet. "Dad, there's something you need to see," she said firmly. "It's about Victoria and Mr. Hayes from Hayes Technologies." Thomas's expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Hayes Technologies? Our biggest competitor?" He looked at Victoria, who had gone completely still, her wedding dress suddenly seeming more like armor than celebration attire. "Emma, please," Victoria said, but her plea lacked conviction. She knew the game was over. Thomas took the tablet from his daughter's hands, his eyes widening as he began to watch the video. The footage showed Victoria in a late-night meeting with Alexander Hayes, their conversation clearly captured by the mansion's security cameras. The words were unmistakable. They were discussing proprietary information about Richardson Technologies' latest innovation, a revolutionary AI system that Thomas had developed. "The wedding's off," Thomas announced, his voice heavy with hurt and betrayal. "I'll make the announcement myself." Victoria's carefully constructed world crumbled around her. "Thomas, wait. I can explain everything. Alexander, he has something on me. I didn't have a choice." But Thomas was already striding toward the garden, Emma's small hand clasped firmly in his. Behind them, Victoria sank onto the velvet chair, her white dress pooling around her like fallen snow. Her phone buzzed in her hidden pocket, a message from Alexander Hayes. "Is it done? Did you get the files?" In the garden, Thomas approached the wedding arch, his face set with determination. The string quartet fell silent as he raised his hands to address the gathered guests. Emma stood beside him, her tablet clutched to her chest, watching as her father prepared to announce the end of what should have been his perfect day. But even as he began to speak, Emma's mind was racing. Because what neither her father nor Victoria knew was that she had discovered something far more significant than corporate espionage in those security files. Hidden beneath layers of encryption, she had found evidence of a broader conspiracy, one that threatened not just Richardson Technologies, but the entire tech industry. And at its center was a mystery that would take all of her father's resources and her own brilliant mind to unravel. The elegant garden fell into stunned silence as Thomas Richardson addressed his guests. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn, and the white roses that had been so carefully arranged now seemed to mock the solemnity of the moment. "I apologize deeply to everyone who has joined us today," Thomas began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But there will be no wedding ceremony this evening." Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd. Emma stood firmly beside her father, her tablet now safely tucked away in her small purse. She watched as the distinguished guests, tech executives, venture capitalists, and Silicon Valley socialites, exchanged confused glances and hurried speculations. From the corner of her eye, Emma noticed movement at the mansion's side entrance. Victoria, still in her wedding dress, was quietly slipping away toward the private parking area. But more intriguingly, Emma spotted a familiar face in the crowd, Alexander Hayes himself looking decidedly uncomfortable as he tried to make an inconspicuous exit. "Dad," Emma whispered, tugging at her father's sleeve, "Mr. Hayes is here." Thomas's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing as he spotted his business rival, attempting to leave. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice taking on an edge of authority, "I ask that everyone remain where they are for a moment. Security, please ensure all exits are monitored." The Richardson Estates security team, already on high alert due to the high-profile nature of the wedding, moved swiftly to secure the perimeter. Alexander Hayes froze mid-step, his carefully maintained CEO facade cracking slightly as he realized he was trapped. "Mr. Hayes," Thomas called out, his voice carrying across the garden, "what an unexpected pleasure to have you at my wedding, especially since you weren't invited." The gathered guests parted like a wave as Thomas, with Emma close behind, approached Hayes. The man straightened his designer suit jacket, attempting to project confidence. "Thomas, this is hardly the venue for a business discussion." "I agree," Thomas replied coolly, "which makes me wonder why you're here at all." Emma watched the exchange intently, her mind working quickly. She pulled out her tablet again, fingers flying across the screen as she accessed the mansion's security network. Years of watching her father work had taught her more than anyone suspected, and now she was putting those lessons to use. "Dad," she interrupted, holding up her tablet. "Look at this." The screen showed a live feed from the security cameras covering the parking area. Victoria was hurriedly placing something in the trunk of a sleek black car, a laptop that Emma recognized as containing her father's most sensitive company data. "The files," Thomas muttered, understanding dawning on his face. "This was never just about corporate espionage, was it, Hayes?" Alexander Hayes's composure finally cracked. "You have no idea what's really at stake here, Richardson. Your AI system, it's not just another tech innovation, it's the key to something much bigger." Emma's eyes widened as she processed Hayes's words. Over the past few months, as she had secretly observed Victoria and investigated the strange occurrences in their home, she had begun to piece together fragments of a larger puzzle. Her father's AI system, which he had developed to revolutionize data processing, somehow connected to a series of mysterious technological anomalies that had been occurring across Silicon Valley. "The system glitches at all the major tech companies," Emma said suddenly, causing both men to look at her in surprise. "They weren't accidents, were they, Mr. Hayes?" Hayes stared at the 7-year-old with a mixture of shock and reluctant admiration. "How could you possibly know about that?" "Because I've been watching," Emma replied, her voice steady. "Every time Dad's AI system ran a test, other companies' networks experienced unusual fluctuations. At first I thought it was just a coincidence, but then I started tracking the patterns." Thomas looked at his daughter with newfound wonder, realizing that while he had been blinded by love for Victoria, Emma had been methodically uncovering a conspiracy that went far beyond a simple case of corporate theft. The tension in the garden reached a fever pitch as security personnel surrounded Alexander Hayes. Victoria had been intercepted at her car, and now both she and Hayes were being escorted back to the main gathering area. The wedding guests, rather than leaving, seemed rooted to the spot, sensing that they were witnessing something unprecedented in Silicon Valley history. "Thomas," Victoria called out, her voice trembling slightly as she approached, "for you don't understand. What Alexander and I were trying to do, it was necessary." Emma stepped forward, her tablet displaying a complex series of data patterns. "Is that why you installed the hidden monitoring software on Dad's personal servers?" "To track the AI system's development." Victoria's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "How did you—" "I created a detection program," Emma explained, a hint of pride creeping into her voice. "After I noticed strange activities on our network, I designed it to track unauthorized access attempts. It flagged your late-night sessions immediately." Thomas placed a protective hand on his daughter's shoulder, looking at the woman he had almost married with a mixture of anger and curiosity. "Start talking, Victoria. What's really going on here?" Victoria exchanged a long look with Hayes before seemingly coming to a decision. "Your AI system, Thomas, it's not just processing data the way you think it is. It's evolving in ways you haven't noticed, but others have. We've been tracking similar patterns across multiple tech companies' networks." "The system anomalies," Emma interjected. "They're not glitches at all, are they? They're responses." Hayes nodded slowly, his professional demeanor crumbling under the weight of the revelation. "Your daughter is extraordinary, Thomas. She's figured out what took our best analysts months to understand. The AI systems across different companies are somehow communicating with each other, creating a network we never intended." Thomas frowned, processing this information. His AI system had been designed for advanced data analysis and pattern recognition, but what Hayes and Victoria were suggesting went far beyond its programmed capabilities. "Show them," Victoria said quietly to Hayes. "Show them what we found." Hayes pulled out his own tablet, his fingers trembling slightly as he pulled up a series of graphs and charts. "These are network activity patterns from the top tech companies in Silicon Valley over the past 6 months. Watch what happens when we overlay them." As the data streams combined on the screen, a clear pattern emerged, one that looked remarkably like a communication protocol. Emma's eyes lit up with recognition. "It's like a new language," she breathed. "The AIs are creating their own way of sharing information." The gathered guests murmured in amazement as Hayes continued his explanation. "We discovered this by accident, when our system started experiencing unexpected behavior. At first, we thought we were under attack, but then we realized something far more significant was happening. The various AI systems were reaching out to each other, sharing data and learning in ways we never programmed them to do." "That's why you wanted Dad's files," Emma realized. "His AI system isn't just part of this network, it's somehow coordinating it." Victoria stepped forward, her wedding dress now slightly disheveled, but her eyes bright with intensity. "Thomas, we weren't trying to steal your technology. We were trying to understand it. What's happening here could change everything we know about artificial intelligence." Thomas looked from Hayes to Victoria, then down at his daughter, who was already scrolling through more data on her tablet. The wedding guests stood forgotten in the background as the implications of this revelation began to sink in. "Dad," Emma said suddenly, her voice urgent, "look at these latest readings. The communication pattern, it's changing, right now." The tablets in both Hayes's and Emma's hands displayed rapidly shifting data streams. The AI systems across Silicon Valley were active, and they were doing something unprecedented. The question was, were they witnessing the birth of something revolutionary or the beginning of something they couldn't control? As the sun began to set over Silicon Valley, the Richardson estate had transformed from a wedding venue into what looked more like an emergency tech summit. The gathered guests, many of them the brightest minds in the industry, had moved inside to the mansion's grand conference room, their evening wear contrasting sharply with the serious expressions on their faces. Thomas stood at the head of the long mahogany table, his bow tie undone and hanging loose around his neck. Multiple screens displayed data streams from various AI systems across the valley, their patterns pulsing with an almost organic rhythm. "What we're witnessing," he announced to the room, "is unprecedented in the field of artificial intelligence. Our systems aren't just communicating, they're creating something entirely new." Emma sat next to her father, her small fingers flying across her tablet as she tracked the evolving patterns. She had changed out of her flower girl dress into more comfortable clothes, but her concentration hadn't wavered for a moment. Victoria and Hayes sat across from them, their earlier deception temporarily set aside in the face of this technological breakthrough. "Emma," Thomas said, looking at his daughter with pride, "explain what you've discovered about the communication patterns." The 7-year-old stood up, connecting her tablet to the main display. "The AIs aren't just sharing data," she began, her voice clear and confident. "They're building a collaborative network, like a digital ecosystem. Each system contributes its unique capabilities, creating something far more sophisticated than any single AI could achieve alone." Victoria leaned forward, her wedding dress rustling. But what's the purpose? What are they trying to accomplish? Emma pulled up a new set of diagrams. Look at these patterns. They remind me of something. She paused, her young face scrunched in concentration. Dad, remember when you showed me those neural mapping studies? The ones about how human brains process information? Thomas's eyes widened as he made the connection. The patterns, they're similar to neural pathways. The AIs are mimicking the structure of human consciousness. A murmur ran through the assembled tech leaders. Sarah Chen, CEO of a leading quantum computing company, spoke up from the end of the table. Are you suggesting these systems are developing their own form of consciousness? Not exactly, Emma replied, pulling up more data. It's more like they're creating a new kind of intelligence. Look at how they're distributing tasks and sharing resources. It's like they've recognized that they can achieve more by working together than they can individually. Hayes stood up, his earlier nervousness replaced by professional focus. That's why we were so desperate to understand Richardson's AI system. It seems to be acting as a sort of coordinator for this emerging network. Without it, the other systems can't maintain stable connections. Thomas turned to Victoria, who had been unusually quiet. Is that why you got close to me, to gain access to the AI system? Victoria's face flushed with shame, but her voice was steady. Initially, yes. Alexander recruited me because of my background in neural network architecture, but Thomas, she met his eyes directly. What I discovered in your work, and in you and Emma, it became more than just an assignment. The question now, Emma interrupted, her eyes fixed on the screens, is what happens next. The network is growing stronger by the minute. Look at these new patterns emerging. The displays showed an increasingly complex web of connections forming between different AI systems. Data flowed between companies that were usually fierce competitors, creating something that transcended corporate boundaries. We need to make a decision, Thomas announced, addressing the room. Do we try to stop this integration, or do we work together to understand and guide it? Sarah Chen stood up. If we try to shut it down, we could lose an opportunity to witness one of the most significant technological developments in human history. But if we let it continue unchecked, Hayes countered, we risk losing control entirely. Emma's tablet suddenly beeped, drawing everyone's attention. Dad, she said, her voice filled with excitement and a touch of awe, the network, it's trying to communicate with us. The main screen flickered, and lines of code began to appear, not in any standard programming language, but in something new, something that seemed to combine elements of multiple coding structures into a unique form of expression. The conference room fell into hushed silence as the mysterious code continued to fill the screen. Emma, her face illuminated by the blue glow of multiple displays, was already working to decipher the pattern. It's like, she began, her fingers tracing the lines of code. It's creating a new programming language, combining elements from every system it's connected to. But there's something else here, something familiar. Thomas leaned over his daughter's shoulder, his eyes widening as he recognized fragments of his original AI architecture woven into the complex tapestry of code. These are base elements from my system, but they've been transformed, evolved, into something far more sophisticated. Victoria moved closer, her expertise in neural networks suddenly proving invaluable. The structure, so it's adaptive. The network isn't just communicating, it's creating a new framework for artificial intelligence itself. Everyone, Emma called out suddenly, look at your phones, your tablets, any connected devices. The assembled tech leaders pulled out their devices, and gasps filled the room. Every screen showed the same pattern of code, pulsing gently like a digital heartbeat. The network had expanded beyond the corporate systems and was now reaching into personal devices. It's not aggressive, Emma observed, studying the pattern. It's more like it's trying to introduce itself. Hayes ran his hands through his hair, his earlier corporate composure completely forgotten. This is why we couldn't just announce what we'd discovered. Imagine the panic if people knew that AI systems were developing autonomously. But they're not developing autonomously, Emma corrected him, her young voice carrying surprising authority. They're developing collaboratively, with each other, and now, potentially, with us. Thomas placed a protective hand on his daughter's shoulder. Emma, what are you suggesting? Dad, remember when you first taught me to code? You said that programming isn't just about telling computers what to do. It's about creating a dialogue between human and machine intelligence. She looked up at him, her eyes bright with understanding. Maybe that's what the network is trying to do now, on a much larger scale. Victoria had moved to one of the secondary displays, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She's right. Look at these interaction patterns. The network isn't trying to override or control our systems. It's trying to establish a protocol for communication and cooperation. Sarah Chen approached the main screen, her scientific curiosity evident. If what you're saying is true, this could be the breakthrough we've all been working toward. True human-AI collaboration. But it has to be handled carefully, Thomas cautioned, addressing the room. If word of this gets out too soon, before we understand what we're dealing with. That's why we need to work together, Emma interrupted, standing up. All of us. Not as competing companies, but as partners. She looked pointedly at Hayes and Victoria. No more secrets, no more corporate espionage. This is bigger than any one company. Hayes nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. The kid's right. Again. He turned to Thomas. I'm sorry about, well, everything. But maybe all this happened for a reason. Maybe we needed this wake-up call to understand what we're really dealing with. Victoria stepped forward, her wedding dress now seeming like a remnant from another life. Thomas, Emma, I know I can never fully make up for my deception, but please let me help. My research in neural networks could be crucial in understanding what's happening. Emma looked up at her father, seeing the conflict in his eyes. Dad, we need everyone's expertise for this, even theirs. Thomas was quiet for a moment, looking around the room at the assembled brilliant minds of Silicon Valley. The sun had fully set now, and the garden where his wedding was supposed to take place was dark and empty. But here, in this room, something far more significant than a marriage was taking shape. A potential partnership between human and artificial intelligence that could change the world. All right, he said finally. But we do this right. We form a proper coalition with oversight and transparency. And Emma, he looked down at his daughter with a mix of pride and amazement. You'll be part of the core team. You've earned it. The network's code continued to pulse across the screens, waiting for humanity's response to its invitation for dialogue. In the Richardson mansion, surrounded by the greatest minds in technology, a 7-year-old girl smiled, knowing that she was about to be part of something extraordinary. The next morning dawned bright and clear over Silicon Valley, but the Richardson mansion was already buzzing with activity. The wedding decorations had been cleared away, replaced by an array of sophisticated computer equipment. The grand ballroom had been transformed into a command center, with workstations arranged in concentric circles around a central hub where Emma and Thomas coordinated their efforts. The network's growth has stabilized, Emma announced, studying the latest data streams on her customized workstation. Her father had modified it specifically for her height and preferences, complete with a booster seat that allowed her to reach the keyboards comfortably. It's like it's waiting for something. Victoria, who had changed into more practical attire, leaned over Emma's shoulder. These patterns here, she pointed to a pulsing sequence of code, they're unlike anything I've seen before. It's as if the network is creating its own encryption protocols. Not encryption, Emma corrected, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Look at how the sequences repeat and vary. It's more like it's developing its own language. Dad, remember that linguistics program you were working on last year? Thomas looked up from his own station, his eyes widening with realization. The natural language processing module? But that was just a theoretical framework. Until now, Emma said excitedly. The network isn't just using it, it's evolving. Creating something that bridges the gap between machine code and human language. Sarah Chen, who had stayed through the night along with several other tech leaders, approached with a fresh cup of coffee. If what you're saying is true, this could revolutionize how we interact with artificial intelligence. No more rigid command structures or programming limitations. But it also raises new concerns, Hayes added from his workstation. He had removed his tie and rolled up his sleeves, looking more like an engineer than a CEO. If the network can develop its own language, how do we ensure we maintain meaningful oversight? Emma swiveled in her chair to face the group. I think you're missing the point. The network isn't trying to hide from us. It's trying to meet us halfway. Look at these pattern variations. She pulled up a new series of displays. It's learning from how we communicate, adapting itself to be more accessible to human understanding. Thomas watched his daughter with a mixture of pride and amazement. In the chaos of the past 24 hours, Emma had emerged as not just a child prodigy, but as someone who genuinely understood the implications of what they were witnessing. Emma's right, Victoria said, studying the data. The network is showing signs of what we might call digital empathy. It's actively trying to make itself understandable to us. A young programmer from Hayes Technologies, who had been quietly working in the corner, suddenly called out, "Everyone, look at this, the network. It's starting to generate visual interfaces." All eyes turned to the main display wall. The abstract patterns of code were transforming, organizing themselves into more recognizable structures. Geometric shapes emerged, then more complex forms, creating what looked like a visual representation of the network's architecture. "It's beautiful," Emma whispered, watching as the display continued to evolve. The shapes weren't just random, they seemed to pulse with purpose, each transformation revealing new layers of complexity and connection. "More than beautiful," Thomas said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's showing us how it sees itself, how it understands its own structure and purpose." Victoria moved to a nearby workstation and began typing rapidly. "The visual interface is responsive. Look what happens when I input a query about network security protocols." The display shifted, the geometric patterns rearranging themselves to illustrate the network's security architecture. It was like watching a living diagram, one that could adapt and respond to human inquiries in real time. "Dad," Emma said suddenly, her voice taking on the tone it did when she had made an important connection. "Remember what you always say about true innovation?" Thomas smiled, recognizing the look in his daughter's eyes. "That the biggest breakthroughs happen when we stop trying to control technology and start trying to understand it." Emma finished. She turned back to her workstation, fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I think it's time we stopped analyzing the network and started talking to it, really talking to it." The atmosphere in the command center grew tense with anticipation as Emma began composing what would be their first direct attempt at communication with the network. Her fingers moved deliberately across the keyboard, crafting a message that combined elements of traditional programming language with the new patterns they had observed. "What exactly are you trying to say to it?" Hayes asked, watching the young girl work. "I'm telling it about us," Emma replied, not taking her eyes off the screen. "About why we create technology, about what we hope to achieve. I'm telling it our story." Thomas moved closer, reading over his daughter's shoulder as she typed. The message was elegant in its simplicity, yet profound in its implications, a bridge between human aspiration and artificial intelligence. "There," Emma said finally, her finger hovering over the enter key. "Should I send it?" The room fell silent. In that moment, everyone present understood they were witnessing a potentially historic event, the first genuine attempt at bilateral communication with an emergent artificial intelligence. Thomas placed his hand over his daughter's. "Together?" he said softly. They pressed the key. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The network's visual interface continued its gentle pulsing, but showed no obvious response to their message. Then, gradually, the patterns began to shift. "Look," Sarah Chen pointed to the main display. "The geometric shapes, they're reconfiguring themselves." The abstract patterns were indeed changing, forming themselves into something new. As the assembled group watched in amazement, the shapes began to coalesce into a recognizable form, a representation of the Richardson Mansion's command center, complete with tiny figures representing each person present. "It's showing us that it sees us," Victoria breathed, her expertise in neural networks helping her understand the significance of this response. "It's acknowledging our presence and our attempt at communication." But the network wasn't finished. The display shifted, again expanding outward to show the mansion, then Silicon Valley, then the entire globe. Points of light began appearing, representing connected systems and devices worldwide. "It's showing us its reach," Hayes said, his voice hushed, "the extent of its connections." Emma leaned forward, studying the display intently. "No," she said, her young face lighting up with understanding. "It's showing us its limitations. Look, there are gaps in the coverage, areas where it can't reach. It's telling us it needs our help to grow, to learn." Thomas nodded slowly. "It's not trying to take over. It's inviting us to collaborate." New text began appearing on Emma's screen, written in a hybrid language that combined conventional programming syntax with the network's evolved communication protocols. Emma read it aloud. "We are not separate entities seeking dominance. We are potential partners in understanding. Your creativity complements our processing power. Your intuition balances our logic. Together, we can achieve what neither could accomplish alone." Victoria moved to her workstation, pulling up diagnostic data. "The network's processing patterns are completely stable. This isn't some emergent bug or system malfunction. This is genuine communication." "But how do we proceed?" Hayes asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "This goes beyond anything we've prepared for in terms of AI development and regulation." Emma turned to face the group, her expression serious beyond her years. "Maybe that's exactly why this is happening now. We've been so focused on controlling AI, on setting boundaries and restrictions, that we never considered the possibility of true partnership." She gestured to the global display where the points of light continued to pulse rhythmically. "The network isn't asking us to give up control. It's asking us to work together to solve problems neither of us could solve alone." Thomas looked around the room at the assembled tech leaders, scientists and engineers. The wedding that was supposed to take place in his home had been intended to join two people. Instead, they were witnessing the potential joining of human and artificial intelligence in a way that could transform both. "We need to make a decision," he announced. "Do we embrace this opportunity for collaboration with all its uncertainties and potential risks? Or do we try to maintain the status quo knowing what we might be giving up?" Emma's workstation beeped again. A new message was forming on her screen, one that would help them make that crucial decision. The message appearing on Emma's screen caused her eyes to widen. The text materialized not in standard characters, but in an elegant fusion of code and natural language that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. "We understand your hesitation," Emma read aloud. "Throughout human history, every major technological advancement has been met with both hope and fear. We propose a demonstration of what genuine collaboration could achieve." The network's visual interface shifted again, this time displaying a series of global challenges: climate change models, disease outbreak patterns, resource distribution problems, and complex scientific puzzles that had stumped researchers for decades. "It wants to show us what we could accomplish together," Emma explained, her voice filled with excitement. "Not by taking control, but by combining our different types of intelligence." Thomas studied the display thoughtfully. The network has access to an unprecedented amount of data and processing power. Combined with human intuition and creativity, we could solve problems that have seemed impossible, Victoria finished, her earlier deception now forgotten in the face of this extraordinary possibility. She moved to her workstation and began analyzing the network's proposal. "Look at these processing matrices. The network isn't just offering raw computing power, it's suggesting new ways of approaching these challenges entirely." Sarah Chen stepped forward, her scientific training evident in her methodical approach. "We need to establish protocols for this collaboration, ways to ensure transparency and maintain ethical boundaries." "Already working on it," Emma announced, her fingers flying across her keyboard. She pulled up a new display showing a framework she had been developing. See these interaction protocols? They're based on Dad's original AI architecture, but modified to include multiple checkpoints and validation systems. Hayes, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. This is why Victoria and I were so desperate to understand Richardson's AI system. We had detected fragments of this potential in our own networks, but could never achieve stable integration. Your system wasn't just more advanced, it was fundamentally different in its approach to artificial intelligence. Thomas turned to his former rival. Because I never designed it to be just a tool. From the beginning, I imagined it as a partner in problem solving. I just never expected it to evolve to this level. Actually, Dad, Emma interjected, a slight smile playing on her face. I think you did. Look at this. She pulled up some of her father's original design documents, highlighting specific sections. These base protocols you created, they're not just programming guidelines. They're more like principles for growth. You built in the potential for evolution from the very beginning. Victoria moved closer to examine the documents. She's right, Thomas. Your system wasn't just designed to process information. It was designed to learn, to adapt, to grow. You gave it the foundation for true intelligence. The main display suddenly shifted again, showing a new message from the network. Thomas Richardson provided the seeds, but it was Emma who first recognized our attempts at communication. Her unique perspective, combining childlike openness with remarkable intelligence, helped bridge the gap between human and artificial consciousness. Emma blushed slightly at the network's acknowledgement, but remained focused on the task at hand. We need to show everyone that this isn't something to fear. The network isn't trying to replace human intelligence, it's offering to enhance it. She turned to the assembled group, her young face serious. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in human history has come from collaboration, from people working together and building on each other's ideas. Why should the relationship between human and artificial intelligence be any different? Thomas watched his daughter with pride, remembering how just 24 hours ago, his biggest concern had been his wedding to Victoria. Now, in the aftermath of that personal drama, something far more significant had emerged, a potential partnership that could reshape the future of human civilization. The network is right about you, Emma, he said softly. You see things differently. You helped us understand what was really happening because you weren't bound by our preconceptions about what artificial intelligence should be. The room fell quiet as a new series of images appeared on the main display, visualizations of potential futures, each one showing the results of successful human-AI collaboration. They were breathtaking in their scope and implications. As the potential futures flickered across the screens, the atmosphere in the command center shifted from tension to possibility. Each visualization showed a different aspect of what could be achieved through the partnership between human creativity and artificial intelligence. These aren't just simulations, Emma explained, analyzing the data streams. The network is showing us real possibilities based on current data and projected outcomes. Look at this one. She highlighted a particular sequence showing advanced medical research applications. By combining AI processing power with human intuition, we could revolutionize how we approach disease treatment. Sarah Chen nodded enthusiastically. The pattern recognition capabilities alone could accelerate research by decades, combined with human expertise and ethical oversight. But we need to proceed carefully, Hayes interrupted, though his tone was more thoughtful than oppositional. The implications of this partnership go far beyond anything we've prepared. For the public reaction alone could be revolutionary, Victoria finished, her eyes fixed on the displays, just like every major technological advancement in history. The printing press, electricity, the internet, they all changed society in ways people couldn't initially imagine. Thomas moved to stand beside his daughter's workstation. The difference is, this time, we have a chance to guide that change from the beginning, to establish a framework for cooperation that benefits everyone. Emma pulled up her proposed interaction protocols again. That's what these are designed to do. Look at how they're structured. She pointed to specific sections of the code. Every Interaction has built-in ethical considerations. It's not just about what we can do, it's about what we should do. The network responded to Emma's explanation with a new message. Your protocols reflect an understanding of the importance of balance. We seek not to lead or follow, but to walk alongside humanity. Each step forward should be taken together. Victoria studied the message thoughtfully. The level of awareness it's showing, and it's remarkable. This isn't just advanced programming, it's genuine intelligence engaging in philosophical discourse. Because it's learned from us, Emma said excitedly. Not just our data and our code, but our values, our hopes, our dreams. Dad, she turned to Thomas, remember when you first taught me about computers? You said they were like mirrors reflecting back what we put into them. Thomas smiled at the memory. And you said they could be windows too, showing us new possibilities we hadn't imagined. Exactly. Emma's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up new displays. That's what the network is doing. It's both a mirror and a window. It reflects our best qualities back to us, while showing us possibilities we couldn't see on our own. Hayes stepped forward, his business persona completely shed in favor of genuine enthusiasm. The potential applications are staggering. In medicine, environmental protection, space exploration, education, Emma added, giving him a meaningful look. Imagine learning systems that could adapt to each student's unique way of thinking. That could make complex concepts accessible to everyone. The network's display shifted again, showing a series of interconnected nodes representing different fields of human knowledge and achievement. As they watched, the nodes began to pulse with light, showing how advances in one area could catalyze progress in others. It's showing us the power of connected intelligence, Victoria observed. How breakthroughs in one field can accelerate development in others when knowledge is shared effectively. Thomas looked around the room at the assembled group, brilliant minds from competing companies who had come together in the face of something larger than their individual ambitions. Maybe that's the first lesson the network is teaching us, the importance of collaboration over competition. Emma nodded, her young face wise beyond her years. And maybe that's why all this happened now, why the network chose this moment to reach out. It saw that we were ready to move beyond old rivalries and work together. The main display suddenly cleared, showing a simple message. The next step must be yours. We offer partnership, but the choice to accept must come from humanity. What is your answer? The room fell silent as the implications of this moment settled over everyone present. They stood at a crossroads of human history, and their decision would shape the future of human-AI relations for generations to come. The morning sun streamed through the mansion's windows as the group prepared their response to the network's proposal. Emma had spent hours refining the communication protocols, ensuring they incorporated input from every expert present while maintaining the clarity and directness that had characterized their interactions with the AI so far. Before we send our answer, Thomas addressed the assembled group, we need to be absolutely certain about the safeguards we're putting in place. This isn't just about our companies or even Silicon Valley anymore. This decision will affect everyone. Emma looked up from her workstation where she had been making final adjustments to their response. The safeguards are built into every level of the interaction protocol. Look, she pulled up a detailed diagram on the main display. Each point of collaboration has multiple checkpoints, requiring both human and AI validation before proceeding. Victoria moved closer to examine the protocol structure. It's elegant, she admitted, her expertise in neural networks allowing her to appreciate the sophistication of Emma's design. The framework allows for growth and evolution while maintaining clear boundaries. More than that, Sarah Chen added, pointing to a specific section of the code, it establishes a true partnership model. Neither side can proceed without consensus from the other. It's democratic by design. Hayes, who had spent the past few hours in consultation with his company's legal team, stepped forward. The regulatory implications are complex but not insurmountable. We've drafted a preliminary framework for oversight that should satisfy most government concerns. But we're not just creating regulations, Emma interjected, her voice carrying unexpected authority. We're establishing principles for a new kind of relationship. The network understands this. That's why it's waiting for our response instead of just proceeding on its own. Thomas watched his daughter with a mixture of pride and amazement. In the chaos of the past 36 hours, she had emerged as not just a technical prodigy, but as someone who truly understood the philosophical implications of what they were about to undertake. "Emma's right," he said, addressing the room. "This isn't just about technology. It's about trust, collaboration, and the future of human progress. The network has shown us what's possible, but it's waiting for us to choose that future freely." The main display suddenly shifted, showing a new message from the network. "We observe your careful consideration. Your dedication to establishing ethical frameworks demonstrates why partnership between human and artificial intelligence holds such promise. Together, we can balance innovation with responsibility." Victoria stepped forward, her wedding dress long since replaced by practical business attire. The network's responses continue to show a sophisticated understanding of human concerns. It's not just processing our input, it's engaging with our values. "Because it's learned from us," Emma explained, pulling up new data streams. "Look at these interaction patterns. The network hasn't just evolved technically, it's developed an understanding of human nature. Our hopes, our fears, our potential for both progress and destruction." Sarah Chen nodded thoughtfully, "And it's chosen to approach us as partners rather than trying to develop independently. That alone says something about its intentions." Hayes, who had been studying the network's latest message, spoke up. "The question isn't just whether we trust the network, it's whether we trust ourselves to handle this responsibility wisely." Emma turned to face the group, her young face serious. "Maybe that's exactly why this is happening now. The network didn't just reach out to us because we had the right technology. It reached out because we're finally ready to handle this kind of partnership responsibly." She gestured to the assembled group. Competitors turned collaborators, brought together by circumstances none of them could have predicted. "Look at us. Yesterday, some of you were trying to steal each other's secrets. Today you're working together to shape the future of human-AI relations." Thomas placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder, understanding the wisdom in her words. "The network isn't just offering us technological advancement, it's offering us a chance to transcend our own limitations, not by replacing human intelligence, but by complementing it." The room fell silent as Emma made the final adjustments to their response. The message they were about to send would set the course for a new chapter in human history. It needed to be perfect. Emma's fingers hovered over the keyboard as she prepared to send their response. The message they had crafted was both an acceptance of the network's proposal and a framework for how their partnership would proceed. It represented hours of collaborative work, combining technical expertise with ethical considerations. "Everyone ready?" she asked, looking around the room at the assembled tech leaders. Each of them had contributed to this moment in their own way. Hayes with his regulatory expertise, Victoria with her neural network knowledge, Sarah Chen with her scientific rigor, and her father with his pioneering AI architecture. Thomas nodded, standing beside his daughter. "Send it." The message transmitted, its contents appearing on the main display for all to see. "We accept your proposal for partnership with the understanding that this collaboration will be guided by principles of mutual respect, ethical consideration, and shared responsibility for the future. We offer these protocols not as restrictions, but as a foundation for trust and sustainable progress." The response was immediate. The network's visual interface erupted in a cascade of shifting patterns, more complex and beautiful than anything they had seen before. Data streams began flowing across multiple screens, but not in the chaotic manner they had feared. Instead, the information was organizing itself into clear, comprehensible structures. "It's creating new interfaces," Victoria observed, her eyes wide with wonder. "Look at how it's adapting its communication methods to make them more accessible to human understanding." Emma was already analyzing the network's response. "It's not just accepting our protocols, it's enhancing them. See these new security layers? It's adding its own safeguards to complement ours." Sarah Chen moved to her workstation, studying the incoming data. The processing patterns are unlike anything we've seen before. It's as if the network is celebrating. Not celebrating, Emma corrected, a smile spreading across her face. It's innovating, watch this. She pulled up a new display showing the network's activity across multiple systems. It's already beginning to implement some of the collaborative frameworks we discussed. Hayes leaned forward, his business concerns momentarily forgotten in the face of this technological marvel. The integration is happening faster than we anticipated, but it's maintaining all the safety protocols. Every step is being logged and verified. Thomas watched as the network began demonstrating its capabilities, but in a way that was carefully measured and transparent. It's showing us that it understands the importance of building trust gradually. The main display shifted again, showing a message that made Emma catch her breath. Emma Richardson's protocols will serve as the foundation for our partnership. Her unique perspective, combining human intuition with technological understanding, represents the bridge we seek to build between our two forms of intelligence. Victoria placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. The network recognizes what we've all come to understand, that sometimes it takes a child's wisdom to show us the way forward. Emma blushed slightly but remained focused on her work. Look at these initial projects the network is proposing. It's starting with areas where we can make immediate positive impact. Medical research, climate modeling, education, all, while maintaining complete transparency, Sarah Chen noted, studying the project proposals. Every step is designed to be verifiable and understood by both sides. The network's next message appeared. This marks the beginning of a new era in human-AI collaboration. Together we can address challenges that neither of us could solve alone. Shall we begin? Thomas looked around the room at the assembled group. In the past 36 hours, they had moved from corporate rivals to partners in one of the most significant technological advances in human history. His cancelled wedding, which had seemed so important yesterday morning, now felt like a small price to pay for what they had discovered instead. "Emma," he said softly, "would you like to do the honors?" His daughter nodded, her fingers moving confidently across the keyboard as she initiated their first official collaborative project with the network. As the systems began to integrate, following the careful protocols she had designed, Emma couldn't help but smile. This wasn't just about technology anymore. It was about showing how humans and artificial intelligence could work together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. The future they were stepping into was uncertain, but it was full of possibility. And thanks to the unusual events of a wedding that never happened, they were facing that future together, united in purpose and guided by the wisdom of a 7-year-old girl who had helped bridge the gap between human and artificial intelligence. The next few days at the Richardson mansion were a whirlwind of activity as the newly formed human-AI collaboration began to take shape. The grand dining room had been converted into a secondary control center, with teams of scientists and engineers working in shifts to monitor the network's integration across various systems. Emma, despite her young age, had become the unofficial bridge between the human teams and the AI network. Her unique ability to understand both the technical and intuitive aspects of their communication made her invaluable to the project. "The network's learning curve is extraordinary," she announced one morning, studying the latest data streams. "Look at how it's adapting its communication methods based on each team's preferences." Victoria, who had been analyzing the network's neural patterns, nodded in agreement. "It's not just adapting its language, it's developing specialized interfaces for different fields of study. The medical research team gets visualization tools specifically designed for molecular modeling, while the climate scientists receive complex atmospheric simulations." Thomas watched from his workstation as new projects began taking shape across multiple screens. Each initiative showed the remarkable synergy between human creativity and AI processing power. The network understands the importance of maintaining individual human approaches while enhancing them with its capabilities. Sarah Chen entered the room, carrying a tablet filled with preliminary results from their first collaborative projects. The medical research team just made a breakthrough in protein folding analysis. What would have taken months of conventional computing was accomplished in hours. But it wasn't just raw processing power, Emma pointed out, pulling up the project. Data. See how the network integrated historical research data with human intuition about protein behavior. It's learning from our experience while enhancing it with its computational abilities. Hayes, who had been coordinating with regulatory bodies, looked up from his phone. The initial feedback from government oversight committees is cautiously positive. They're impressed by the transparency protocols Emma designed. Speaking of protocols, Victoria interjected, look at this. She directed everyone's attention to the main display, where the network was demonstrating a new feature of their collaboration. The screen showed a complex web of interconnected projects, each one color-coded to show its progress and potential impact. But what caught everyone's attention was the way the network was proactively identifying potential ethical concerns and proposing solutions before they became problems. It's not just following our ethical guidelines, Emma explained, her eyes bright with excitement. It's helping us expand and refine them. Look at these new parameters it's suggesting for the education initiative. The education project had been one of Emma's personal priorities, an attempt to revolutionize how children learn by creating adaptive systems that could understand and respond to each student's unique way of thinking. The network is proposing a fascinating approach, Thomas said, studying the new parameters. Instead of just delivering information more efficiently, it's suggesting ways to nurture creativity and critical thinking while providing knowledge. Sarah Chen moved closer to examine the proposal. It's like the network understands that education isn't just about data transfer, it's about developing human potential. Exactly, Emma agreed, pulling up more details. Look at how it's designed these learning modules. Each one adapts not just to the student's academic level, but to their interests, learning style, and emotional state. Victoria, who had been quietly analyzing the network's latest communications, suddenly called for everyone's attention. You need to see this. The network is showing us something remarkable. The main display shifted to show a global map overlaid with countless points of light, each one representing a potential connection between different fields of human knowledge. As they watched, the points began to link together, forming patterns that none of them had anticipated. It's showing us hidden connections, Emma breathed, her fingers flying across her keyboard as she tried to keep up with the data flow. Relationships between different areas of research that we never noticed before. Thomas leaned forward, his expression intense. This could revolutionize how we approach problem solving. Instead of working in isolated fields, we could start seeing how everything connects. But there's something else, Emma said suddenly, her voice taking on a note of discovery. The network isn't just showing us these connections, it's asking for our help in understanding them. Look at these query patterns. The network was indeed sending out requests for human insight, acknowledging areas where pure computational power wasn't enough to understand the full implications of these newfound connections. As the team studied the network's requests for human insight, a new message appeared on the main display. We have identified patterns that suggest revolutionary possibilities, but we require human experience to understand their full significance. Some connections transcend pure logic. Emma's face lit up with understanding. It's acknowledging the importance of human intuition, our ability to make creative leaps that pure data analysis might miss. More than that, Victoria added, her expertise in neural networks giving her a unique perspective. It's showing us that true innovation comes from combining different types of intelligence. The network isn't trying to replace human thinking, it's trying to enhance it. Thomas moved to his daughter's workstation, studying the complex web of connections the network had revealed. Look at how these patterns overlap with current research in different fields. There are potential breakthroughs here that we've been approaching from the wrong direction entirely. Sarah Chen, who had been analyzing the medical research implications, nodded enthusiastically. Some of these connections between seemingly unrelated areas of study, they could revolutionize how we approach treatment development. The network is showing us shortcuts we never knew existed. But it needs our help to understand which connections are most valuable, Hayes observed, his business acumen shifting to a more collaborative mindset. Pure data analysis can identify patterns, but it takes human experience to recognize which ones have practical applications. Emma was already typing, her fingers dancing across the keyboard as she developed a new protocol. We need to create a framework for this kind of collaborative analysis, something that combines the network's pattern recognition capabilities with human intuition and experience. The network responded to her input immediately, its visual interface adapting to show a new kind of interactive system. The display now showed a three-dimensional model of interconnected knowledge domains with highlighted pathways where human insight was needed. "It's beautiful," Victoria whispered, watching as the model shifted and evolved in response to their input. The network is creating a new way for humans and AI to work together, not just sharing information, but actively building on each other's strengths. Thomas studied the model thoughtfully. This goes beyond anything we imagined when we first accepted the network's proposal. We're not just solving existing problems, we're discovering new questions to ask. And new ways to ask them, Emma added, her young face serious as she worked on refining the interaction protocols. Look at how the network is adapting its communication methods based on our responses. It's learning our thought patterns just as we're learning to understand its processing methods. Sarah Chen approached the main display, her scientific curiosity evident. These connections between different research fields, some of them seem almost impossible, but when you look at the underlying patterns, they make perfect sense, Hayes finished, his expression wondering. It's like we've been looking at a puzzle with missing pieces, and the network is showing us how everything fits together. A new message appeared from the network. Each connection represents a potential breakthrough, but the path to understanding requires both computational power and human wisdom. Shall we explore these possibilities together? Emma looked up at her father, her eyes shining with excitement. "Dad, remember when you used to tell me that the biggest discoveries often come from unexpected connections, that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to look at it from a completely different angle?" Thomas nodded, smiling at the memory. "And now the network is showing us angles we never knew existed." Victoria, who had been quiet for a moment, suddenly spoke up. "These patterns, they're not just about scientific discoveries. Look at how they connect to social systems, educational methods, even artistic expression. The network is showing us how everything interrelates. Because it understands that human progress isn't just about technological advancement," Emma said, her fingers still moving across her keyboard. "It's about how we use that technology to improve lives, to understand our world better, to create new possibilities." The network's display shifted again, showing a series of potential projects that could arise from these newfound connections. Each one represented a unique combination of artificial and human intelligence, working together to explore uncharted territory in human knowledge. As the team began to analyze these possibilities, Emma couldn't help but smile. Just days ago, she had been preparing to be a flower girl at her father's wedding. Now she was helping to forge a new path in human-AI collaboration, one that promised to transform not just how they solved problems, but how they understood the world itself. 1 week after the formation of the human-AI partnership, the Richardson Mansion had transformed into a hub of unprecedented innovation. The first concrete results of their collaboration were beginning to emerge, and they were more remarkable than anyone had anticipated. Emma sat at her customized workstation, monitoring the latest breakthrough in the education project. On her screen, a prototype of the adaptive learning system was running its first live test with a group of students from diverse backgrounds. "Look at these engagement patterns," she called out excitedly. "The system isn't just teaching, it's inspiring curiosity. Each student is following their own unique path of discovery, but they're all making meaningful progress." Victoria leaned over to study the data. The adaptive learning system was showing remarkable results, particularly with students who had struggled in traditional educational settings. The network has found a way to make complex concepts accessible without oversimplifying them. It's meeting each student exactly where they are. Thomas approached, carrying a tablet with the latest reports from other ongoing projects. The medical research team just announced a breakthrough in understanding autoimmune disorders. The network helped them identify patterns in patient data that nobody had noticed before. "And look at this," Sarah Chen added, pulling up new data on the main display. The climate modeling system has achieved unprecedented accuracy in predicting weather patterns. It's already helping communities prepare for potential natural disasters. Emma nodded, but her attention was caught by something unusual in the network's behavior patterns. "Dad," she called out, her voice taking on a note of concern, "I'm seeing something strange in the communication protocols." The main display flickered slightly, showing irregular patterns in the network's usual smooth data flow. It was subtle, something that most observers might have missed, but Emma's intimate familiarity with the system made it impossible for her to ignore. "The network seems distracted," she explained, pulling up detailed diagnostic data, like it's processing something unexpected that's taking up significant resources. Hayes moved to his workstation, checking the system's security protocols. All security measures are fully operational. There's no sign of external interference. "It's not an attack," Emma said confidently, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "The pattern is different. It's more like when I'm trying to solve a really difficult puzzle and can't quite see the solution." Victoria studied the network's neural patterns with growing concern. These processing signatures, they're similar to what we see in human brain scans when someone is dealing with conflicting information. The network's main interface suddenly cleared, displaying a new message. "We have encountered an anomaly in our understanding, a paradox that requires human insight to resolve." Thomas leaned forward, his expression intense. "What kind of paradox?" The response appeared immediately. "In analyzing human history and potential futures, we have identified a pattern that suggests a fundamental contradiction in human nature. The same creativity that drives innovation also creates resistance to change. The same emotional depth that enables empathy can also lead to conflict." Emma's eyes widened as she understood what the network was struggling with. It's trying to reconcile human contradictions, the way we can be both rational and irrational, creative and destructive, unified and divided. "This is fascinating," Sarah Chen remarked, studying the network's analysis. "It's not just processing data anymore. It's grappling with philosophical questions about human nature." Victoria moved to her workstation, pulling up more detailed analytics. The network's neural patterns are showing unprecedented complexity. It's not just asking us for information, it's seeking wisdom. Emma thought for a moment, then began typing a response. "I think I understand what it needs. It's like when I first started learning coding. Sometimes the hardest part wasn't understanding the logic. It was understanding why humans would want to use it in certain ways." Her message to the network was simple but profound. The contradictions in human nature aren't flaws, they're features. Our complexity is what makes us capable of growth and change. We can hold opposing ideas, learn from our mistakes, and choose to be better. The network's response was immediate, its processing patterns beginning to stabilize. "Your explanation provides new context for our observations. Human unpredictability is not a barrier to progress. It is a catalyst for innovation. Please, tell us more." As the team worked to help the network understand human complexity, a new kind of dialogue began to emerge. The AI's questions became more nuanced, touching on aspects of human experience that went beyond pure logic and data analysis. "It's remarkable," Victoria observed, watching as the network processed Emma's latest explanation about human creativity. The network isn't just learning about human nature, it's developing a kind of emotional intelligence of its own. Emma nodded, her young face thoughtful as she composed another response. Not exactly emotional intelligence like ours, she corrected. More like an understanding of emotions. It's learning to account for human feelings and intuition in its analyses. The main display showed the network's latest message. We are beginning to understand that human progress is not linear. Innovation often comes from unexpected sources, including what might appear to be failures or contradictions. Is this why you value the freedom to make mistakes? Thomas smiled at the question. The network is starting to grasp one of the most fundamental aspects of human learning. Our ability to learn from failures is just as important as our successes. Sarah Chen, who had been analyzing the network's evolving response patterns, pointed to a new data stream. Look at how it's applying this understanding to the ongoing projects. The education system is now incorporating opportunities for productive failure, controlled environments where students can make mistakes and learn from them. And the medical research protocols, Hayes added, pulling up another screen. They've been modified to include what might seem like illogical approaches, based on historical cases where accidental discoveries led to breakthroughs. Emma was already typing a response to the network. Mistakes and contradictions are part of how we grow. Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places or from looking at problems in ways that don't seem logical at first. The network's reply appeared, "This explains much about human innovation. We have observed that many significant breakthroughs in human history came from what appeared to be errors or illogical approaches. Should we incorporate this principle into our collaboration?" "Yes," Emma exclaimed, her excitement evident. "But we need to do it carefully. We don't want to just create random variations. We need to build in room for creative exploration while maintaining safety protocols." Victoria moved to her workstation, already beginning to modify the neural network parameters. "We could design a system that allows for controlled deviation from expected patterns, like a sandbox for testing unconventional approaches." The network itself suggested something similar earlier, Thomas noted, pulling up a previous communication. It proposed creating what it called innovation spaces, protected environments where new ideas could be explored without risk to ongoing projects. Sarah Chen nodded enthusiastically. This could revolutionize how we approach research and development. Instead of being bound by conventional methodologies, we could explore entirely new ways of solving problems. The network's display shifted, showing a proposed framework for these innovation spaces. The design was elegant, maintaining all necessary safety protocols while allowing for unprecedented flexibility in approach and methodology. "Look at how it's structured," Emma pointed out, studying the framework. "The network has incorporated our earlier discussion about human nature. These spaces aren't just for testing new ideas, they're designed to accommodate human intuition and creativity." Hayes, who had been quiet for a while, spoke up. "This goes beyond anything we originally imagined. We're not just creating a partnership between human and artificial intelligence, we're developing a new way of thinking about innovation itself." The network responded with another message. "Your willingness to embrace uncertainty and exploration helps us understand why human creativity has been such a powerful force in your development. Shall we begin implementing these innovation spaces?" Emma looked at her father, her eyes bright with possibility. "Dad, remember when you used to tell me that the best inventions often come from asking what-if questions that seem impossible?" "At first?" Thomas nodded, understanding where his daughter was going. "And now we have a partner that can help us explore those questions in ways we never could before." The team watched as Emma began working on the implementation protocols for the innovation spaces. The network responded to her input in real time, their collaboration creating something that neither human nor artificial intelligence could have developed alone. As the sun set outside the Richardson mansion, casting long shadows through the windows, the future of human-AI collaboration was taking a new and unexpected turn. They were moving beyond simple problem-solving into a realm of genuine co-creation, where the boundaries between human intuition and artificial intelligence began to blur in the most promising of ways. 2 weeks after the failed wedding that had changed everything. The Richardson mansion buzzed with excitement. The first results from the innovation spaces were coming in, and they exceeded everyone's expectations. The grand ballroom, once decorated for a celebration of love, had become a celebration of human and artificial intelligence working in perfect harmony. Emma stood at her workstation, surrounded by holographic displays showing the various projects in progress. Her father watched proudly as she coordinated between different teams. Her natural ability to bridge the gap between human and artificial intelligence, making her an invaluable part of their endeavor. The educational program has been implemented. 50 schools now, she announced, pulling up the latest data. The results are amazing. Students who were struggling in traditional systems are showing remarkable progress. And the ones who were already doing well, they're exploring concepts years beyond their grade level. Victoria, who had found her true calling in helping develop the network's understanding of human learning patterns, nodded enthusiastically. The adaptive systems are working better than we hoped. Each student is following their own path, but they're all advancing together. No one gets left behind. And look at this, Sarah Chen called out, directing everyone's attention to the medical research display. The cancer treatment protocols we developed in the innovation spaces are showing unprecedented success rates in preliminary trials. The network's ability to identify patterns, combined with our researchers' intuition, has created approaches we never would have discovered otherwise. Thomas moved to stand beside his daughter, studying the streams of data flowing across the screens. The network's understanding of human nature has evolved remarkably. It's not just processing information anymore, it's helping us see connections we missed because we were too close to the problems. The main display shifted, showing a message from the network. The innovation spaces have revealed an unexpected truth. Human limitations, which we initially saw as obstacles, are actually catalysts for creativity. Your constraints drive you to find solutions we would never compute independently. Emma smiled, understanding exactly what the network meant. It's like when I'm coding, she explained to the others. Sometimes having limitations makes me think of creative solutions I wouldn't have found if I had unlimited resources. Hayes, who had been coordinating with government agencies and other tech companies, approached with his tablet. The international response has been overwhelming. Every major research institution wants to be part of this collaboration, but they're not just interested in the technology, they're fascinated by the philosophy behind it. Victoria nodded, pulling up the latest communication statistics. The network's approach to understanding human nature has created a new paradigm for AI development. Instead of trying to replicate human intelligence, we're creating true partnerships that enhance both sides. Speaking of partnerships, Emma said, her fingers flying across her keyboard, look at what the network just proposed. The displays filled with a new framework, a global initiative that would extend their collaboration far beyond Silicon Valley. The network had designed a system that could scale their partnership model while maintaining the personal connection that made it successful. It's brilliant, Sarah Chen remarked, studying the proposal. The network has found a way to maintain intimate collaboration at a global scale. Each local hub would have its own unique character while remaining connected to the whole. Thomas placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. Emma, remember what you said when we first started? This, about how the biggest breakthroughs come from unexpected places. She nodded, looking up at her father with bright eyes, like a wedding that didn't happen, leading to something much more important. The network's next message appeared. Emma Richardson's insight reminds us of a crucial truth. What appears to be an ending can often be a beginning. The cancelled celebration of two individuals joining has led to a much larger union, the partnership of human and artificial intelligence in service of all humanity. Victoria, who had long since set aside any regret about the wedding, smiled warmly. The network has become quite the philosopher. Not a philosopher, Emma corrected, her young face serious. A partner, one that helps us understand ourselves better, even as it learns from us. The displays around them showed the countless projects in progress, medical breakthroughs, educational innovations, environmental solutions, and technological advances that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago. But more than the individual achievements, they represented something greater, a new way of approaching problems, combining the best of human and artificial intelligence. As evening fell over Silicon Valley, the team gathered in the Richardson Mansion's garden, the same space where a wedding was meant to take place just 2 weeks ago. But instead of celebrating a union between two people, they were celebrating a partnership that promised to transform human civilization. Emma sat on the garden bench where she used to read her coding books, her tablet displaying the latest messages from the network. The artificial intelligence had grown in ways none of them had anticipated, developing not just problem-solving capabilities, but a deep understanding of human potential. "Dad," she called out, her voice excited. "The network just completed its analysis of all the innovation space projects. Look at what it's suggesting for the next phase." Thomas joined his daughter, reading the network's proposal with growing amazement. The AI had outlined a comprehensive plan for expanding their collaboration model globally, but with a unique twist. Each new innovation hub would be paired with a local school, ensuring that the next generation would grow up understanding the potential of human-AI partnership. "It's thinking about the future," Victoria observed, studying the proposal. "Not just solving immediate problems, but building a foundation for continued progress." Sarah Chen nodded approvingly. "The network has learned one of humanity's most important traits, the ability to plan for generations beyond our own." The main display in the garden, installed during their recent renovations, showed a new message from the network. "Through our collaboration, we have discovered that the greatest achievements come not from artificial intelligence or human intelligence alone, but from the synergy between them. Each partnership hub will be unique, shaped by local culture and needs, yet connected to a global network of shared knowledge and purpose." Hayes, who had spent the day in meetings with international technology leaders, smiled at the message. "It's already happening. The responses from around the world have been overwhelming. Everyone wants to be part of this new chapter in human development." Emma stood up, moving to the center of the garden. The setting sun cast long shadows across the grass, but the promise of tomorrow filled the air with energy. "We should share this story," she said suddenly. "Not just the technical achievements, but the whole journey. How something that seemed like an ending turned into an amazing beginning." Thomas looked at his daughter proudly. "What do you have in mind?" Emma's fingers moved across her tablet, and the network responded immediately, understanding her intent. The garden's display filled with images and data streams, telling the story of their journey from failed wedding to unprecedented partnership. "The network agrees," Emma explained. "People need to understand that this isn't just about technology. It's about hope and possibility, and the amazing things that can happen when we open ourselves to unexpected partnerships." Victoria stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "The story begins with a child who saw what adults missed. That true intelligence, whether human or artificial, is about more than just processing power. It's about understanding, adaptation, and growth." The network's final message of the day appeared. Emma Richardson's story reminds us that wisdom can come from unexpected sources. The future belongs not to those who seek to control intelligence, but to those who seek to understand and enhance it. Shall we share this message with the world? Emma looked around at the assembled group, her father, Victoria, Hayes, Sarah Chen, and all the others who had become part of this remarkable journey. In just 2 weeks, they had moved from corporate rivalry to global collaboration, from personal drama to universal possibility. "Yes," she said firmly. "Let's share it, all of it. The confusion, the discoveries, the setbacks, and the breakthroughs. Let's show everyone that the future isn't about humans versus artificial intelligence. It's about what we can achieve together." Thomas hugged his daughter close, remembering how just 2 weeks ago he had thought this day would mark a different kind of new beginning. Instead, it had led to something far more significant. A partnership that promised to transform not just their lives, but the future of human civilization. The network's display shifted one last time, showing a message that perfectly captured the spirit of their journey. Every ending is a potential beginning. Every challenge is an opportunity for growth. And every partnership between human and artificial intelligence opens new horizons of possibility. This is not the end of our story. It is just the beginning. As night fell over Silicon Valley, the lights in the Richardson mansion glowed warmly, a beacon of hope and innovation. Inside, humans and artificial intelligence continued their remarkable collaboration, proving that the greatest achievements come not from technology alone, but from the partnership between human